So we're going to begin talking about the marketing mix and breaking it down to the 4 P's. And we're going to talk about each P in its own. So the first P we're going to talk about is product. So product and the 4 P's. We talk about the goods or services offered by a company to its customers. So we'll talk about goods and services because there's things you can touch and things you can't touch. So that's where we talk about goods. Normally are things we can touch, services, things we can't touch. The product is a solution to the needs and wants of the consumer. Right? The consumer has a problem. Their problem needs a solution. Right? Those are the needs and wants that they have. As I was saying, consumer has a problem. Their problem is their needs and wants. We have the solution to their problem. That is our product. Our product either being our goods or services that we are offering. The thing that we're really looking for in a product, okay, it has to be profitable or potentially profitable, because we're not going to get into making something and trying to sell it if it doesn't make us any money. And that has to be probably the most important thing about the product to the business. It has to be profitable or potentially profitable. It has to be able to make them money, because if it's not going to make us any money, why would we want to try and make it? What's the purpose? Now, we might talk about later on doing things for a charity or doing something along those lines. And in those cases, there are some opportunities where you're going to be able to make a product for charity. But for the most part, that product that they're putting out there is so they can make some money. So we'll talk about a product that's tangible and a product that's not tangible. So the first things we have are tangible items. So these are items with an actual physical presence. It's something we can touch. So we have some examples. We have a car, electronic device, so those three, item of clothing, or a consumer good. So the main thing we really want to take away, tangible, touch. They both start with a T. Tangible, actual physical presence, something we can touch. This would be a product. So the next thing we talk about is something that is an intangible product. Now, we're going to call this, for the most part, a service. These are items that have no physical presence but can be felt indirectly. Well, that's a little vague. So with our intangible, typically we're talking about things that can't be touched. So we talk about an insurance policy. You have to have insurance policy, you have to have car insurance, health insurance, all these different insurance things. You don't really ever get to touch it. The only time you actually get to touch your insurance policy is when you have to pay a bill. And you don't want to touch it then, because nobody wants to pay any bills. All right? But not something you can touch on a regular basis. Online items such as software. There you go. That's a good example, because that's something that impacts us now. We download an app on our phone. We're buying an app, but you don't ever really, there's nothing that you have. It goes on your phone, but you don't have something that you can physically touch in your hand. Not like buying a pillow for your bed. I can touch that pillow. So again, applications, apps on your phones, music and video files, things that aren't actually something you can physically put a hand on. And we have a service. We define a service a little bit deeper, because that is technically an intangible product, but service is a little bit farther. So intangible activity performed by other people in exchange for payment, along with its associated benefits. So continuing with service. Services are also intangible products. We talked about this, something that can't be touched, but they are the result of an economic activity that does not result in ownership. So you don't get anything in exchange. we're making in personal finance, we're talking about financial exchanges and making an exchange between a buyer and a seller. We talk about these also as being the producer and the consumer. All right. So in this instance, you're you're purchasing their service. They're going to do something for you. It doesn't result in it. I don't own anything. The one of the easiest ones that I think we can all relate to in terms of service is we go to get our automobile looked at, our car. There's a fee. There's fees, service to look at that. I don't get to hold anything. I don't own anything, but I have to pay for that knowledge and that experience. Continuing, it is a process that creates benefits for customers. And again, that example we just talked about, that definitely creates a process. Services depend highly on who is performing them and remain difficult to reproduce exactly. And that's the thing that we can take away really with services. Services depend highly on who is performing them, because if we're getting a service done, in the previous example, we talked about a car, getting your car worked on. I want someone that knows what they're doing, depending highly on who is performing them. So I'm getting someone that might be a specialist and remain difficult to reproduce exactly. Not everybody can do that. There's a lot of people that can work on cars, but not everybody can do that. So that's when we look at our service as being something that, well, might not be something everybody can do. Don't really own anything after. So those are also considered products, but service. Intangible because we can't touch it.